best in New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. I was thinking about this yesterday, and I did a video at one point that said I think that 7-9 could win the NFC East, or the NFC least. And I was thinking about it because if you go back into NFL history, and I like NFL history, and I believe that there were only 4 teams since I think 1982 that have made the playoffs with losing records. I know the Browns and the Lions did it in the strike shortened season in '82. I remember the Seahawks did it at 7-9 in 2010. And of course, we all know the Panthers did it in 2014 when they were 7-8-1. So those were the only teams in NFL history who have made the playoffs with losing records, going back to 1982, because, I don't go back to the 50s and the 60s. I'm trying to keep it in more of a present tense. And if we look at the NFC East standings, the Cowboys are, of course, 2-4. The Eagles are 1-4 with 1 tie. The Giants are 1-5, and the Washington Redskins are 1-5. So I was breaking down the schedules for all the teams, and right now the NFC East is bad. I mean, we haven't been this bad since the 70s. I think this is the first time since 60-something that every team in the NFC East has had a losing record, and that's going back to the St. Louis Cardinals days when they were in the division. But I was looking at everyone's record, I was looking at everyone's schedules, and I was trying to figure, and looking at their conference standings as well, and I was trying to figure out, could 6-10 potentially take the NFC East? And now, if you think about it, we are already 6 games into the season with 10 games left. 6-10 is not, with the way these teams are playing, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, if you take a look, like I said, if we just go and take a look at the Giants' schedule, because that's what we're all more concerned about it, in the upcoming 4 weeks, we got Philadelphia, Washington, and then Philadelphia again. And we don't see another NFC East opponent until January 3rd against Dallas. So let's just say we split those games. Well, we can't split 3 games. But let's say we just go, let's say, by the grace of God, we go 2-1 in these games. And so if we take a look at our schedule, if we go 2-1, that means we're 3-6, 9 games in. So, I'm not a mathematician, but at that point in time, we could just, we could potentially win 3 more games. And if you take a look at the way the teams are playing right now, I mean, it's a possibility. Now, it's not going to happen. I think I think Dallas is going to have an opportunity to straighten themselves out. And I don't mean straighten themselves out by winning the division outright by like 10-6. Because they've already got 4 losses. But they are 2-2 at home. They're 0-2 on the road. So I mean, they're the only team right now with a winning record at home. The Eagles right now are the only team in the NFC East that have a road win. But potentially 6-10 could take this division. Now, I'm not saying the Giants are going to go and run their schedule, because after these 4 weeks and after the Cincinnati game, our schedule gets pretty tough. I mean, you go Seattle, Arizona, Cleveland, Baltimore, Dallas. I mean, potentially right there, that's 5 straight losses. So I'm not thinking that we are going to win 6 games. I'm still thinking that we're going to go like 2-14. I think we may beat Philadelphia on the short week, but then I also think we're going to lose to Washington at home, because we shouldn't have won that game. Let's all be honest. It's all right. We shouldn't have won the Tampa game last year. We probably had the opportunity to lose one of the Washington games last year as well. But I mean, it's if you want to have hope, you can have hope that the Giants at 6-10 could potentially make the playoffs and take the NFC East. I mean, that I guess if we want to take the long view of it, I mean, I guess that would be considered hope. I mean, is it something that we want to do? Do we want to be that team that made it in at 6-10, then lost 47-13 to some team in the playoffs? Probably not. I mean, it's something to hang your hat on. But like I said, in this season of strangeness, not just for the Giants but for the entire NFL, I mean, it's not crazy to think that way. I have a feeling, though, Philadelphia's got all these injuries, but I have a feeling that Philadelphia is going to get right. And I hate Doug Peterson. I admit that freely. I hated him. I hate him. Still hate him. But he finds a way. You know what? It pains me to say, but Doug Peterson is a good head coach. He finds a way to get talent out of nothing. Or turn players and literally teach them to play to their talents. And he gets his team to buy into the system. And we all talk about Joe Judge getting his team guys to buy in. You got to buy in. It's easier to buy in when you win. When you're 1-5, it's not easy to buy into something. If we run to 1-10, it's not going to be real easy to buy into anything. And I know people will sit there and look at the Giants and go, we were in so many games. Chicago game was closer than it should have been. Anyone not named Trubisky, we would have been blown out. The Ram game, it was the same thing. The Rams shot themselves in the foot more often than anything else. And if Dak doesn't get hurt in the Dallas game, we lose 42-15 or 42-16 or something crazy like that. Because they were putting it together when Dak got hurt. And they'll say, well, we could have won. But you know what? Teams need to take advantage of those opportunities, and we did not take advantage of the opportunities. And a team like Philadelphia somehow finds a way to take advantage of their opportunities. And that's why I'm worried about this Thursday game. But we'll get into the Thursday game later. The only thing I want to touch on briefly is Daniel Jones. I think this is Daniel Jones' last stand for the next 5 games. Because again, you're looking at Philadelphia, Tampa, Washington, Philadelphia, Cincinnati. Cincinnati is playing better, and they look like they have a good quarterback in Mr. Burrows. But this has got to be Daniel Jones' last stand. If he can't put something together in these 5 coming games, we got problems. And if you take a look at what his projected stats are for the entire season, he's projected at only hitting 61% of his passes, a little over 3,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 16 interceptions. Yeah, and people go, Eli Manning had a bad season. Eli Manning's bad second season, was 24 touchdowns, 17 interceptions? I think, it's funny, if you hear that in the background, that is the dog moving around in his crate because he's still not feeling well. But if we take a look, like I said, at Daniel Jones, these are winnable, not except for outside maybe the Tampa game, these are winnable games. And he had more of a pocket to throw again. We can't keep using the line as the excuse for Daniel Jones because Daniel Jones has also missed guys. Last week was the first time he didn't. I can truly say he wasn't always looking deep, but you got to look deep sometimes. You need to be in the happy medium. You can't either just dink and dunk it or just look deep every play. You got to see. They always say you got to see the whole field. So I still can't tell you if this is Daniel Jones, if Daniel Jones is the New York Giants quarterback of the future. I don't know. Nobody knows yet. We still have a lot of season left. But if he's not, it's not the first time this has happened. I mean, you go back into the 90s when Phil Simms retired in 93. I mean, we went from Dave Brown to Kent Graham to Dave Brown to Dave Brown to Danny Cannell to Dave Brown to Danny Cannell to Kent Graham to Kent Graham to Kerry Collins to Jesse Palmer, finally to Kurt Warner, then finally to Eli Manning. So you don't know when or where you're going to find your franchise quarterback. I mean, it took, if you take a look, even going back into this, I'm an old guy. You go back to the 70s after we got rid of Fran Tarkenton. We went Norm Snead, Craig Norton, Norm Snead, Craig Norton again, back to Norm Snead, Joe Pisarcik, Randy Dean, Joe Pisarcik. Then we finally landed on Phil Simms. And then even after we landed on Phil Simms, for 2 years we went Simms, Bruner, then Bruner, Simms, and Simms, Bruner, then Rutledge, Bruner, then finally back to Phil Simms, and finally back to the playoffs. So you never know where you're going to find your franchise quarterback and where it's going to turn up. So I'm not going to sit there and say Daniel Jones is not the guy right now. But I am going to say these 5 games, this is, to me, in my mind, this is Daniel Jones' last stand. If he does not make a good showing in these 5 games, I think we have to start having a conversation of Daniel Jones not being the quarterback of the future. And again, this is Tim with Online Big Blue, bringing you the best in New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. And as always, if you could like, if you could subscribe, if you could ring that bell, I think you know what that means. That'd be awesome.